Hey BRSU, this video is Best Digital Practices for BRSU Technology. Secure digital practices make sure that we leave a professional digital footprint. And there's three areas that this video will talk about to do that. One is to protect yourself. Two is to protect your students. And three is to protect our learning network. The first digital practice of protecting yourself has several examples. Separate digital work life from digital personal life. In this screenshot, you can see that in this email account, I am logged in to my BRSU account. I can see that because it says BRSU and it has my picture, my profile picture for my Gmail. If I were to be doing my personal banking or personal online shopping, I should not be using this account. I shouldn't be mixing my Gmail account for work with personal things. It opens me up to a lot of potential problems if I am connecting things of a personal nature and a personal financial nature with my work account. One tricky thing when using a Chrome web browser is that you also can be logged into Chrome. This is so it can remember sites that you like and it can push things at you and it can sync things like bookmarks no matter where you're logged in. But that can get confusing because you may be logged into a Chrome browser with your BRSU account. You can see by the profile picture that I am logged into Chrome as well as my email account, and both are my work accounts. So you just want to keep that in mind when you're doing work, to be logged into work accounts, and when you're doing personal things, to be logged into a personal Gmail account. Gmail is really great with security and with spam. So if you don't have a personal email account or you have an old one through an account from years ago, you may want to consider opening a free Gmail account because they have such good security. Speaking of Google, when you're doing work with colleagues and you're going to be sharing documents, the best practice is to use a shared drive. You can see your shared drives right under your My Drive when you're in Google Drive. When you use a shared drive, you don't have to worry about sharing individual folders or documents and who was the author. And if somebody leaves the BRSU, what happens to all the people who weren't the author? If you simply use a shared drive, it's protected. All of the people in the shared drive have equal access. If someone leaves, the others can still access it. And it also provides sort of a wall around those documents, so only the people in the shared drive can see them. So using shared drives, if you're going to do any amount of sharing at all in a group or a team, best practice. All digital communication can be requested. So when you're texting, when you're emailing, and it has to do with work, you should remember to communicate as if you are communicating to all stakeholders, from your supervisor to the superintendent, to the student, to the family. All the potential stakeholders are involved in that communication or could potentially be involved. So when you're communicating digitally, keep that in mind. Passwords. Don't share them. Don't leave them out on sticky notes. Don't use the same ones for multiple accounts. We suggest a password protector like LastPass. You can get a free version of LastPass. It can store all your passwords. It can generate unique passwords that are hard to guess. And it can be an extension that when you go to a new site, you can click, yes, save my password, and it won't be wiped out if you clear your history as the ones do when you save them in Google, but it's kept behind a wall with just one password that you have to remember. So keeping your password protected is one of the simplest but best ways to keep things secure. The only thing I can really say about social media is that work plus social media equals a minefield. That is simply how it goes. The second area of secure digital practices and leaving a professional digital footprint is protecting your students, protecting their privacy and protecting their data. And this is not only best practices, but it is a federal law and it is now also a Vermont law. that student data and student privacy must be protected. And the IT team tries our best to keep track of all that for you. So if you ever have questions, you can ask. But here are some ways that you can do that. So our student information system, ALMA, has a student ID linked to each person, each student. When you go into a student to see their address, maybe to call their parents, you'll notice they have a student ID number. And that's a unique number. And we try our best in help tickets and other communication to use the student ID number so that student names are not visible when we're communicating about them. It can be a hard habit to develop, but it is a nice way of protecting student data privacy. Also in ALMA, there are levels of protection, and there may be sometimes something that feels frustrating if you can't access it, but that is designed so that the people who need to know something do know something about students, and those of us who don't need to know something won't be able to see it. So that's one way that we're really trying to protect our student data privacy. When you go to Boris, our little cow help website, you will see that at the very top there is a digital resource request form. Even if you want to use software or an app or a website that maybe has student accounts, if you want to use one of those, even if it's free, even if it's not a matter of requesting it to buy, we ask that you use that form because it allows us to check about student privacy. Many times, if you use sort of a shady website, which isn't very careful, student data is not protected, student privacy is not protected, their emails can be seen by others. Sometimes they're even breaking the law by selling emails and other things for students to other parties. So by using the software request form, we can check and stay in compliance and also protect our students. Another way to tell whether software or websites or apps are reliable and to learn about their privacy policies is to use Clever to look and see if Clever is connected, because they vet before they will connect. So that's helpful. And you can also go to Common Sense Media reviews for teachers. Common Sense Media for educators has a really great database where you can look up apps and websites and see whether they have a good privacy rating, and also just learn more about how useful the app or the website is. When it comes to another way to protect student data and student privacy, we ask that all students who are 5th grade and up make their own Chromebook password and learn to keep it and protect it. But we even encourage students of all ages to change and protect their passwords. We understand that seems daunting, especially if you have younger students, but it's really a lifelong skill that they can learn. If you feel uncomfortable with that, you can keep a list of their passwords in a really safe place, or you can ask the IT team to just be on the ready to change passwords if students inevitably forget them. But it's one of the best things we can teach them to do to protect their own privacy. The third area of secure digital practices and leaving a professional digital footprint is to protect our learning network. This graphic here, this picture, really shows that just about everything we do depends on our network. Almost every part of our day has a connection now to our network. And so we're all in it together to try to keep it safe and secure and healthy and running. And some of the ways that we can do that are to avoid downloading software. If you have a staff Chromebook, you might run into something where it says, oh, this isn't approved by your administrator. You just need to send us a help ticket and we can look at that and work with you. If you have a Mac, you might still have the ability to download software. We asked that you don't do that because it could impact the security and safety of the network until we can get all the devices to be more secure and managed. We ask that people use the guest Wi-Fi network if they're families or other people coming from the outside, or even for our own personal phones and things that might not be as secure because they go back and forth. When it comes to getting emails, this is probably the trickiest thing for all of us because there are all kinds of tricks every day that are being honed and developed when it comes to trying to get people to click on links and to give out passwords. So a few tricks that you can look for. One is to look for odd things. This particular email says, This message has been scanned for viruses and dangerous content by mail scanner, sort of generic, and is believed to be clean. When you see odd language like that or things that sound strangely generic or too good to be true, possibly something to be very suspicious about. Some tips is to learn how to hover with your mouse. When you are over an email address or a link, you will see that your mouse can turn into a finger like this graphic that you see here. And even though it says here, please click here, if you hover, you can see that the web address that you're going to is nothing to do with American Express in this example. And so that is what they call spoofing, when they make one thing look like another. You can do the same thing in many emails. You can hover over the email address, which might say it's from Gmail or might have a very close connection to an email address that looks valid. But if you hover over it, it will tell you the real email address and it'll look very different. You can see the same thing up here, that this is a login screen, and this was a very clever one that started a couple of years ago, where you would get this email and it would be from a colleague. And so they're able to get into address books. And so you think it's from your colleague, or it looks like it's from your colleague, and it's asking you to sign in before you go to a shared Google Doc. And then if you were to actually look up here and hover, you would see that perhaps the address was really spoofed. It was really tough to tell. And a lot of people were having trouble with it. So the watchword here is, if it has to do with signing, DocuSign, signing things, if it has to do with passwords or logging in, if it has to do with anything that could be sort of a serious step, to slow down. And if you have any question at all, give a call to the colleague who sent it, or just write a separate email and ask them, did you just send me this? Or sometimes you can make a new tab and you can copy an address and paste it in and see where it goes in a new tab without clicking on it in the link. And if you have any questions, you can always ask us. So we're here to help. I'm Kelly Alfeld, and Nick Gaudier is our IT analyst. Ryan Anderson is our IT technician, and Steve Lester is our newest IT technician. We get a lot of help tickets all the time that are related to security issues and best practices, and we're happy to help. And it's always changing. So no one's able to keep up with it. We try our best to keep learning so you don't have to, but we totally understand that it's a moving target, but we'll all do our best. Boris, with our cow here to remind you to go there, is also a place where we're revamping it right now to make it more user-friendly, but it's a great help site that you can go to, which gives you tips for best practices like that. And when in doubt, just ask. This has been a lot to take in. It's a lot of sort of negative stuff. So thank you for watching, and I'll give you a moment to take in much more pleasant images of some baby animals. Thanks for listening.